Welcome to Dreamforce. They gave me the big room so nobody has to sit next to anybody. I don't know how that works. All right. This session, in case you are in the wrong room, is called From Markup to Magic, the Evolution of Lightning Components. My name is Greg Ruiz. I'm the Director of Product Management for Lightning Components. So I'm supposed to know what I'm talking about. And I hope I do, because I'm going to be sharing it with you for the next 40 minutes. How many of you have been to Dreamforce before? All right, excellent. Welcome back. Newbies, first-timers? All right. So first-timers, I got something that you're going to get used to. All these old folks will tell you, this is every presentation that you see. I'm about to switch slides. What's my next slide? The forward-looking statement slide. Exactly right. Okay, I'll give you a minute to read this. I've never even read it. I will, however, be making some forward-looking statements today. So what I would like you to do is only purchase based upon things that are generally available, all of our generally available features, not on any of the statements that I might make. All right, with that, next slide. Every presentation at Dreamforce is a big thank you. Thank you for coming to Dreamforce. Thank you for coming to my session. I really appreciate it. And thank you for building on the Salesforce platform. How many of you are what you would self-identify as a developer? All right. Admins? Do both admin-elopers? Okay, all right. Just business folks? Wandered into the room, didn't know what it was about, and I'm just going to sit. Okay, all right, one person. Okay, good enough. Because I am going to be talking about developer-y stuff, but for those admins and admin developers in the room, I will also be making it very easy to understand. So let's talk about what would Salesforce look like if we designed it today. Lightning, exactly right. Because this is what we asked ourselves a number of years ago when we started the journey to Lightning. In fact, does anybody remember how many years has Lightning been out? Three. This is the third year of Lightning. We launched it 3 years ago at Dreamforce. I know because I was there. That was my first Dreamforce. At the time, I was on the developer evangelism team for Lightning Components. And so that's what we did way back when we sat down to re-envision Salesforce and take it from this to something more modern. Now, there's several things that you need to understand, especially as it relates to Lightning Components. The old classic page, that is a server-side technology. That page is rendered on the server. Everything that we do, every interaction with that page results in us having to talk to the server, saying, hey, I want a new page. And so we're delivered literally a new page. On the right-hand side of that screenshot is the developer console in Chrome. And you can see there are several hundreds. I'm seeing down to line 637 lines of HTML. All right, all of that being compiled and built on the server, sent down to us, which is great. It's been working fabulously for us for 19 years, except for one small problem. Let's say you just wanted to update a single value, single thing in a data grid or a list, right? This is what happens. This is what gets sent back to the server, right? Try to make sense of that, I dare you, right? None of us can. So that's where Lightning comes in. The fundamental difference between Classic and Lightning can be boiled down to one thing: server side versus client side. Because Lightning and the Lightning framework is a client side framework. Everything happens on the client. Okay? When I say everything, what do I mean? Well, you'll notice here, that's 45 lines of code in the inspector showing you that page. Now, anybody who's done front-end development knows that it is literally impossible to build a page that complex in 45 lines of HTML. That's because I lied to you. There's actually only about 17 lines of HTML in that page. The rest are script tags and CSS. So how did that page get built in that few lines of code? And the answer is Lightning Components. You see, because everything that we see on the page is a component. It is coming down from the server. And its data is coming down from the server independently of itself. And then the Lightning framework marries everything back together for us on the client. This has a number of benefits, but let's go back to that benefit of I've got one row to edit. I need just to make a single change to a single field. What's going to get sent back to the client? Well, you remember what it was in the classic world? This is something we call a lot more sensible. So we literally are just sending a small JSON packet back up that says, I just changed this record and this value in this record, okay? That's crazy. That means we don't have to deal with having the page built on the server and re-rendered and sent back down to us. You know what else that means? That means that we can even do client-side interaction with our page and not even talk to the server if we don't need to. Another benefit of Lightning components. So let's talk about Lightning components just from a basic standpoint. Make sure everybody is on the same page here. I want to start off with this. This is a pop quiz. I know you didn't, in the description for this session, it said you must study for the pop quiz, right? You all studied? No, you didn't, okay. All right, what do you see? Let's see how you do on this pop quiz. What do you see? A house. And if you said a house, you're doing it wrong, because you're not looking closely enough. Let's try it again. What do you see? Components. I see components. I see patterns. I see reusable things over and over. Windows, boards, doors, whatever, light fixtures. They are all just building blocks of a house. And in my world, the Lightning world, that's components as well. You see, because we build everything in Lightning based upon component blueprints that come from the Lightning Design System. We call it SLDS for short. The SLDS actually started at the same time as Lightning. Actually, it started a couple years before that. But with SLDS, we suddenly had CSS and HTML markup that looked like Lightning, because what happened the moment we launched Lightning? Every one of you started saying, well, how do I build my stuff to look like your stuff, right? And that's where the Lightning Design System came into being. And it was great, and it was wonderful, and I love it. However, I still had a problem, and that was you all kept coming back to me saying, oh, I'm trying to get this to work right, but I must have deleted something in the blueprint, and now it's not working, and oh my goodness, if only there was a way that it could be more like, you ready for the word? Visual Force. Womp womp. We're in Lightning, man. But Visual Force is great. And what's great about it? What's great about Visual Force is the fact that it's built around declarative tags. Declarative tags that anyone can learn. Apex page block table. Hey, guess what? It makes a table. Really easy. So you all came to us and said, we would love the same thing to happen in the Lightning world, in the Lightning component world. And so we took a look at SLDS, and we said, you know what? We could take these same component blueprints, and we could start working with them. You see, because literally everything in Lightning is a component. Everything you see on any page in Lightning breaks itself all the way down into a component. Pop quiz, you ready for another one? You failed miserably on the last one. So shall we try again? Okay, what is the largest component you've ever seen? You said detail, okay, but let's just leave off the detail part. Page. Page. Every page in Lightning is nothing more than a giant Lightning component made up of many, many, many other components, right? We even, as developers now, we can even create our own page templates. And you know how you do it? In the developer console, you say File, New Lightning Component. There you go. And you're off and running. Every page is a component. Everything we see on it is a component. So, all right, you're really not doing good. You're 0 for 2 right now. One more pop quiz? What do you see here? The Kanban, however we pronounce it, I still have yet to find someone who can tell me which way it's pronounced. But yes, that's what you see, right? Come on, right? Wrong. You're not doing too well at this. Let's try it again. Let's make it easier. Let's go to that. What is that? Path? No. Geez, come on, guys. That's not one component. That's two components that have been composited together over and over to make a larger component. Are you getting the hang of this? No? Okay, let's try one more. One more, and then we'll get into some code. All right, what do you see now? Components, yes, finally. Components, of course. But here's the pop quiz. How many? Ooh, yeah, that's a little bit harder. Let me give you some help. How's that? Really, what you see is 6 components used over and over again. Okay? This is the idea. This is where our world changes from being a Lightning developer, coming from a Classic developer, a Visualforce developer, to a Lightning developer. Because in Classic, as a Visualforce developer, I think in terms of the Visualforce page. I think of the overall thing at all times. I'm thinking of the page. But in the Lightning world, we can think as small as we want, and should be thinking as small as we can, down to the smallest building blocks and building out with reusable components over and over again. Which brings us to the question of, for base components, we asked ourselves, how many components do we need? I mean, there's React out there at the time at 41, Polymer at 34. Our own Visualforce. Who knew in here? Did anyone really know there are 153 tags in Visualforce? Anybody know that? Don't raise your hand, because if you do, I'm going to ask you to name them. Right? There was 153. In the Lightning Design System, there was 81 at the time that we started this journey. And so we said, all right, there's a bunch of components. So which ones do we need to turn into declarative components that we can reuse as developers in our own custom components? And we set out in the summer of 16 release with 22 components. And as you can see, the graph keeps going up and to the right? We keep bringing more and more. Now, does anybody notice something? I left a couple of releases off here. Did you notice that? It said summer, winter, spring, summer, winter, spring. I missed spring. Why didn't I put spring on here? And then it's summer. Oh, and I didn't put winter on here either. The reason is I didn't want the slide to look stupid with those 3 releases sitting side by side where the number just went up by 1. Because with these releases, I've only given you 1 new base component each time in the last 3 releases. That's not because my team is tired. We're doing a lot of work. It's just now we've got so many components out there that we have to improve each of those components each release. Oh, and fix bugs too and stuff. So, of course, the rapid amount of components that we were giving you initially has slowed down, but that doesn't mean we're stopped. That doesn't mean I've run out of ideas. We've got a ton, and I'm going to show you one here toward the end of the presentation. So with each new release, new components. And that means that list just starts growing and growing and growing and growing and growing and growing and growing. But what's it mean for you and I as a developer? Let's take a look at this component. This is a component I'm actually really proud of. This was the first component that I built. When I got to Salesforce and they said, you're the Lightning Components guy. And I said, what's a Lightning component? And they said, that's right. That's what you got to go figure out because you're the guy. I said, oh, okay. So I sat down to try to build a component. This is what I came up with. Now, when I built it, this is a component that actually proxies. You can drop it onto a contact record page or an account record page, and it looks up the address and finds schools or shopping or restaurants or whatever you want to look for around that particular record. Okay? Now, when I built this the first time, there was no base components. SLDS was in its infancy. And so this ended up being about 185 lines of HTML code. Okay? There's a lot of code to wade through. I have since gone back and rebuilt this, and I went from 185 lines of code to the new version, 32 lines of code. Okay? So how did that happen? Well, it happened because I started using base components. And what is a base component? Literally, a base component is nothing more than the ability to say lightning : something. Give it some parameters, give it some attributes, and it does the magic for me. It turns itself into other things. It does all of that HTML building that I was having to do by hand. And that is the idea behind base components. Okay? One line of code, a few parameters, and you're off and running. Okay? So, with that in mind, as I said, each time we're giving you more and more things. So if you think you know a component, each release, it behooves you to go back to the release notes and take a look, because we may have updated components. For example, in the summer release, we added inline edit to data table. We added Boolean column types. We gave you the ability in Lightning Icon to use your own custom SVG icons. So we're going to continue to improve these. And I know this is what you came for. What's coming in the future? All right? So there was spring, there was summer. Here's some stuff coming in the future. Lightning chart, I'm really proud of. Lightning chart is going to come in spring. Knock on wood. Remember that forward-looking statement slide? Okay. So in the spring, we should have Lightning chart. We're going to deliver pie, bar, and line chart for you. Single line of code. Oh, by the way, it's not tied to your Salesforce data. You want to show data coming from some other place? You can use Lightning chart to do that as well. Okay. And of course,
I guess that was supposed to say spring of 19.
was it? No, that's spring of 18. That was the spring release, summer of 18, and we are now at the winter 19 release. So there you go. Okay, so finally, component library. Now, component library is something that is not new. It has actually been out for over a year. How many of you have seen the component library? Few have, about half of that room. The other half is going, where's the component library? You see, we hid it so well, nobody could find it. We did that for a reason, so we could test some things out. But now, it's actually pretty easy to find. So let's start there. Start with the component library, then I'm going to start this demo off. We're going to code for the rest of our time together. So here we go. So the component library, first of all, where is it? It's right here. And where am I? I'm on developer.salesforce.com. So on developer.salesforce.com, under the resources here, we will see Lightning Component Library. I click that. That is, of course, going to take me right over to the screen that I was just looking at. Now, what can you do in the component library? Well, the first thing you can do is get rid of that stupid message I see. The second thing you can do is to understand these components. So let's take something simple like accordion, right? So here I see my basic accordion. Here's what it looks like over here. Here's one with a conditional section. Here's one with multiple sections open. By the way, that's a new feature. Multiple sections open on accordion in winter 19. So there you go. Now, the cool thing about the component library is right down here, you can actually see the markup. You can just copy and paste the markup. And the best part is, if there's something in the controller that you need, you don't have to guess your way to JavaScript anymore, because we're going to give it to you right there. We're going to show you how we built this component. Do you know what? You want to know what's coming in the component library? Oh, if you don't, I won't tell you. Do you want to know what's coming?
Yeah.
How about live playgrounds so that you can code and see it happening right there in the component library? Okay, that's coming in a future release. All right. Another thing, though, that I do want to point out is back up here. Let me go back to the main page. There's also this filter section here. So if you're interested in knowing, hey, I'm building a component, it's going to be used in communities. I want to make sure that I'm not using a component that is not compatible with communities. You can simply check that in your filters, and then we will filter out all of the components that don't belong. Right. So that's really cool. But now let's talk about some code. All right. We'll take you through the evolution of components. You know, I told you that whole journey where I was going from 185 lines of code down to less code. That also is reflected not only of base components, but also some of the ways in which we develop. There are new ways that we develop today that we didn't have 2 years ago or 3 years ago when I started. Right? So things have changed. So I want to take you through a few best practices and illustrate a few things that you may not even know are possible here. So I'm going to start over, well, we're first going to show you, I'm going to start with this component. Okay? Now this component is actually showing the broker for this particular record. Now yes, you can see right down here, there's John Bradley, so you can see that when I mouse over, that is the very same information up here. So that's what I did, was I wanted to build a component so that people could see who the broker was for a given property, just at a glance without having to do the whole mouse over thing, right? So how does this happen today? Well, let me go back over here to my code. And in my code, this is that broker card. Now, the first thing we'll notice is it does have a Lightning card. So Lightning card, let me make that a little bit bigger there for you. Lightning card is one of those base components, right? I use this thing probably every component I build, just about, right? And what is it doing? Well, it's just giving me an icon, it's giving me a title. And you'll notice it says broker for something, but when I look back over here at my component, it seems to be broken. It's not registering a value here, but we'll fix that in just a second. The values that are being displayed, however, where are they coming from? Well, they're coming from right here, from my init. So my handler named init is going to fire. And what is it going to do? Well, it's going to go off and it's going to say, hey, I need to get ready to fire this method called getBroker, which is in my controller called broker select. So there it is. That's what it looks like. And what I'm having to do is really sort of some silly work, right? Because what I've got to do is I've got one class that needs to say, hey, I need to go find out what the broker is, the ID of the broker for my particular property. Then I need to pass that off to another method to say, go get all the information for the broker. You with me so far? Right? We've been doing this since Lightning Components began. But you know what I call this? Stupid. It's too much work. Why would I do it this way? So let me show you what I mean. All right, how should I be building instead? Let's go back over here. First of all, and I'm just going to remove this line of code. So I'm going to comment it out. I'm just going to push this up to my org. Yes, I am running Salesforce DX. If you're not on the DX bandwagon yet, you are really missing out. You should be on the DX bandwagon because I've now pushed that up to my org. I'm going to refresh, and you're going to see all of our broker data is going to disappear. Now I've got a completely empty card because obviously I'm not calling the server anymore. Okay? So, how am I going to fix this? Well, first, let's fix this thing broker for, okay? We're going to do that by talking about data. Up to now, in our world, we have always used Apex to receive or retrieve data from the server to display in our components. But that leads to a problem, and that is, what if I have 25 components on the page, and they're all asking for the very same thing? They're asking for the broker information. Well, that would be 25 calls to get the same thing. And that really is stupid. That's why we started building the Lightning Data Service. And Lightning Data Service is a gatekeeper. It says, I will not allow anyone to make a request for information that I already possess down here on the client. Okay? So I've got the broker information. And now another component says, hey, I need the broker information. It says, I'm going to fire this request. And the page says, well, the Lightning Data Service on the page says, whoa, 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 dude, no, stay right here. We got you covered. Here you go. Here's your data. Now, there's even more things in play there, but let's actually play that out. What it means is, without writing Apex, we can actually do all of this. We can create, read, update, delete actions without writing Apex, which means we're going to be much more performant and also means we're going to be consistent with our data. So what's this look like? Well, this is actually the tag. I've got everything listed here. And what it actually is, it says force record data is the name of the tag. I give it an ID so I can talk to it. And then what we need is a record ID, because a record ID is the most important thing for force record data, because it is the thing that is going to go out and say, I got this record, I need fields. And when it comes back with those fields, it's going to put them either into target record or possibly into target fields. They're both the same thing. The way that you reference them is slightly different. I use target fields all the time because it's just a little bit less to write when I'm calling to that in my controller. Okay, so now we've got those fields, but where did they come from? Or excuse me, before I go there, now that we have them, we're going to watch them. And if something happens to any of the fields that I've requested, we can fire a function to do something. You decide, what do I need to do if one of these fields changes? Like I said, we can get either all the fields through layout type equals full, or if we want, whoops, and I missed it right there, there's a fields as well. I can just list the fields that I'm interested in. And finally, I can also determine if I want to edit any of this, okay? So that we can do those updates. So that's the way it looks. So let's go implement this in our component. Okay, back over here in my component, I have a force record data here. So I'm gonna open that one back up. I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna push this back up. And immediately, once this has pushed back up, we will see that I've fixed a part of the problem on my page. Or on my component. So it now says broker 4, 61 West Cedar Street. How did it know? How did it know? Well, it knew because back over here, this is the record ID of the actual property we're on. Okay? So it knows that. It knows all about those fields. Why? Because I chose every single field on the standard page layout. And so it knew that. And that's why when we look down here in the title of my card, it says this is the broker 4, and then it went into the property field, or the property object, which is where I've stored all those fields. It went in there and said, give me the field name. And that's how it did it. Okay, you with me so far? But where is my data for my broker? I want that data too. Well, now that we have the broker ID, we can actually do something magical as well. Here's what we're going to do. I've got a second force record data here. I'm going to uncomment that. I'm going to save this. And then I'm going to tell you that when this record is updated, so when my main record is updated, it's going to fire a record updated event. So it's going to go fire update broker. Well, update broker is a function that I've created back over here, and you can see I'd simply commented everything out. I'm going to uncomment that, save it, we'll push this, and then we'll come back and we'll look at the code here in just a moment once we see that, in fact, everything has now worked. I just retrieved data. Where's the apex? There is no apex. So let's follow the money. What happened? The component loaded. The component said, I am this record ID. It went and fetched the fields. Actually, it didn't fetch them at all because we were already on the page. And the record details section uses Lightning Data Service under the covers. So it said, I've already got them. So we took them and we put them into the target fields property, which means the record changed because it went from nothing to fields. And so it fired that update broker. What did the update broker do? The update broker said, okay, I need you to go find the broker record. What is the broker record? The broker record is this other force record data. Now you'll notice it doesn't have a record ID because we're setting that record ID dynamically right here. We're saying go set the record ID to whatever the ID is inside of property. My friends, when you do that, you've now just given it a new ID, and so all we need is that next line of code, reload record. And that will cause the retrieval of all those fields for that broker. So I just went out to the server, retrieved everything without writing Apex. Are you having fun yet? You don't seem like it. Let's try something different then. Let's try something different. Let's talk about one more thing. Intelligent components. So if I've got Lightning Data Service and it's underneath the covers of everything that we do now, wouldn't it be cool if I wouldn't have to even do that whole jumping through hoops to say, okay, get the record from this and then pass it to another forest record and have it go off to the server and come back? Wouldn't it be cool if we could just begin to make our components intelligent? And that's what we are doing. We are making them metadata aware. So here is a component, a base component called Lightning Record View Form. We gave this to you back in the winter release last year. And the important part is you'll notice its parameter is record ID and object API name. So you simply pass it a record ID and an object API name, and we'll do the rest. You don't even have to write that whole force record data anymore for yourself because we're doing it for you, which again means no Apex. Wow. Now, that's a record view form. Okay, all it's doing is retrieving it and showing you the thing on a page. Of course, that was good, but what if you wanted to edit it? So in Spring, we actually gave you Lightning Record Edit form, which is view form, just editable. And then we thought, if Lightning Record View form and Lightning Record Edit form got married and had a kid, what would you name it? How about Lightning Record form? A single line of code. I'm going to demo that for you now. All right, so as we said, right up to now, we have been using straight markup. And you can see here I'm displaying the broker's name, the broker's phone number, and all that. This is straight up markup, HTML. But I don't want to do that anymore. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to comment this whole thing out. Okay? I'm just going to comment this out. Goodbye. Comment this out. Goodbye. And I'm going to uncomment this. Now, what is this? This, as you can see, is another component. This is a child component. So this is one of the first things that we need to start doing as developers in the Lightning world is start thinking about the way we build. Like I said, when I built that first component, 185 lines of code because I didn't know any better. So I was putting everything into the one file. But that's really silly because the point of components is to be able to reuse them. Right? So anytime I start getting a number, I use about 20 lines for me. That's normally my flag to start going, I wonder if I could encapsulate this thing into its own component. Right? Start thinking about that. So I have actually encapsulated this one into its own component. Let me go ahead and push this, save this, and push it up. And what is this one? This broker details component is right here. So it looks like it's got a lot of HTML or a lot of markup, but it doesn't. There's not an HTML tag in there. This is all base components. We'll take a look at them here more in depth in just a second, but first, there we go. First, let's go refresh our page, and I've changed the layout so you're going to notice that everything is changing, right? So you can see everything changed now. So this has now got a 2-column form that, by the way, works. There you go. I just updated a record. Oh, wait a second. You didn't get that because you did not go ooh, ah, or anything. You didn't understand what I just did you? What did I just edit? I just edited that broker record. Let me repeat this. I just edited the broker record, but we're not on the broker page, are we? Okay, Greg, you got to show me how did you do it. All right, back we go. Here we go. So this is using Lightning Record View Form. Inside of a view form is just a bunch of Lightning output fields. All I had to do was just to tell it, what is my record ID and what is my object type? And then I'm just going to go in and say, I want these output fields. Which field do I want here? I want the name field. Let's go further down here. Which field do I want here? In this output field, I want the email, and so on and so forth, right? Now, how did it turn itself into an editable mode? Well, you'll notice that each one of my button icons here, which is that pencil, has an edit icon click event. So that says, okay, there must be something in there. Let's go see what it is. In our controller, the edit record, it does nothing more than just passes me over to my helper. So let's call the helper. Oh, the helper does nothing but toggle a CSS class on and off to show or hide. You see, because in this component, if I go further down, here is the record edit form, and it's just hiding using SLDS hide. So it's just hiding from you. Now, when I click that, it takes it off the one, puts it on the other, so they just swap back and forth. But here's the best part. How did I save the record? Let me show you. Now, I will warn you, this is a massive amount of JavaScript, so if you're new to JavaScript, please do not freak out. I'm lying. There's no JavaScript at all. It's one button. In a record edit form, if you put a button in it of type submit, we'll figure out the rest for you. No Apex, no JavaScript was harmed in the updating of that record. Okay? Is that cool? Oh, no. Because we don't want to do it that way. Let's do it this way. Here we go, Lightning record form. Let's push this one up. A single line of code. So that single line of code going up there, and there it is, it's up. Now let's take a look back over here. Let's refresh. And let's see that here we have our component now in a single column. Again, let's go make this guy's name be Bradley again. So it's Bradley, and let's go ahead and save that. And there you go, and we did it. A single line of code, no JavaScript, no Apex. We did it all for you. Now, here's where it gets fun. Do you guys want to have some fun? We got about 5 minutes left. You want to have some fun? Yeah? Okay, here we go. What if this happened? What if your boss came in and said, I need 2 columns? You said, okay, boss. Here's 2 columns. There you go. And then she says, no, wait, no, I didn't mean just 2 columns of those 4 things. That's sort of stupid. I need all of this broker's information. And you said, oh, geez. Well, the reason that you were only getting those fields is because in my broker fields, those are the only 4 that I've actually defined. But then you say, all right, but how about this? Let's just do this. Let's go and say layout type equals full. Save, upload. Now, just like Force Record Data, just like Lightning Data Service, now I have the full record for the broker. Now, if you don't want full, what is the opposite of full in layouts? Opposite of full is compact. So let's upload that. And now, refreshing again, now we have the compact layout. You're not impressed. So when I showed this to one of our executive VPs the very first time, he goes, how many columns can you do? I didn't remember writing a column spec. I mean, I wrote column spec when I wrote the spec for this component, but I didn't put a maximum number. So I said, I don't know. Bearing in mind, this is in front of Parker Harris and a bunch of execs. And they said, try 5 in that little space. I said, that's going to look stupid. They go, I know, I don't care. I just want to see it. So how many columns can you do? We didn't put a maximum on. So if you want an 18-column form, knock yourself out. You can do it. It'd be stupid, but you can do it. Okay? All right. So that's pretty cool, right? Are you impressed? All right. Do you want to have one more piece of fun? Yeah? Okay. All right. I told you that I didn't give you but one new component in this release. There it is. Lightning Map. It is Google Maps in Salesforce. You like it? How many lines of code? How did you know? So if we go over here and we say, here's my property map component, here it is, there it is, just one line of code. That's all it is. Just pass it a set of markers and you're done. What markers did I pass it? I actually have an Apex class that's going out and finding other similar properties for this particular property as well. And so it's gone out and done exactly that. It's using the exact same Apex class. Hey, reusability. All right, was that cool? Or as Steve Jobs says, would you like one more thing? Okay, it is very, in fact, it is so quick. Watch this. Let's go back to our details. All right, I'm on 61 Cedar Street. And here I am in a completely different browser on 61 Cedar Street. Now let me go ahead and update this so you'll see that the card changes to what we had before. So there we go. So this is the exact same record. Have you ever wondered what would happen if one person was editing a record? Are you ready? You're supposed to be watching the property name over on the left-hand side, or the property name on the left-hand side. Let's go ahead and hit save, and there you go. What? That, my friends, is something that is in pilot right now. If you're interested, please talk to your account manager. It is called push cache invalidation, push cache invalidation. It is in pilot right now. It will be coming in beta in the spring. And then come summer, we're actually going to roll it out just like you saw it here, except with something we call live records. As you hear us talking about live record, that's what's coming. And basically, in the summer, when that one turned over there on the left-hand side, when it changed, it would have gotten a little colored bar around it, and my name would have appeared underneath it to tell me who just edited that field. Cool? All right. Thank you very much. I'm happy to answer questions. I'll go to the back and out the hall, but thank you very much for coming. And remember, when you get your survey, 5 stars. Yeah, all right. Thank you so much.